Well, welcome everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our weekly Soul Changes Lives webinar. My name is Debbie Perez Cockburn. I love being your host every week. I love being your mentor. I am the mentor of this group and I love it. I get to do what I love with the people whom I love, and that's one of the freedoms that this business has allowed me. So I thank you for joining me on this journey. As usual, I like to do a little housekeeping. I am not a medical doctor. I do not dispense medical information. What I do love is natural health and love giving good advice on natural health, as well as great supplementation. So happens that my favorite supplements are Solle Naturals products. And so that's what we talk about every week. I have asked my dear friend, Dr. Hugh Jenkins, to share his story. He has a testimonial that he's going to share with us today. And I have made you co-host, Dr. Jenkins, so that you may share your screen, unmute your microphone, and take it away.
Okay, let's see, share my screen. Can everybody see that? Okay, good, good. Okay, well, what I like to do today is share my body, mind, and life experience with Solle. In reference to my body, I was having some issues with my right knee when I'd be at work. I'm walking a lot and I'm going up and down stairs, and my knee was very, very painful. On a scale of 1 to 10, it was an 8. And I came home one afternoon and Gwen was saying, let's go out to the park and start walking. We love doing that, you know, going out, being with Mother Nature, fresh air, the sunshine. And I was hesitating because I was saying, well, to myself, I didn't let her know this, of this pain. So what I did is I took my supplements and I took 4 of the SolleFlex PI, and in 5 short minutes or less, 5 short minutes, that pain went from an 8 to a 0, an 8 to a 0, and that's 5 short minutes. We went out to the park, we walked around, went up and down hills, over a mile of walking, enjoying the fresh air, the sunshine, being with Mother Nature. When we came back, I let Gwen know about the painless knee because it was gone. It helped with the adaptogen, they helped to balance off my body. In reference to my mind, what I did is I've had chronic anxiety, and to the point that it would cause chronic insomnia. So I'd call it anxiety insomnia. So, you know, I would not either sleep at night, or if I got to sleep, it took a long time. It'd be broken sleep, wake up in the middle of the night, not able to go to bed. So I took 4 of the adaptables twice a day. Being that I'm a naturopathic doctor, being in the field for over 40 years, I know a therapeutic dose of the supplements. So I did that, and that night, and ever since, I've been having good quality sleep, able to get to sleep easily, stay to sleep all night, wake up refreshed, and that would help to balance off my mind. So the 2 of those, with their adaptogen herbs in there, balance off the mind-body experience to give me good quality life. So, you know, you can, your body, your mind, your life with Solle, and it is fantastic. Take the soulful journey yourself. I love them.
That's awesome, Dr. Jenkins. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that you used 2 of my favorite products, and I'm very grateful to know that Solle continues to change lives, and that your life is so much better because of Solle. That makes me so, so happy. I love that. So thank you for sharing that testimonial. I think that will help Miss Gwen, who was looking for some kind of help for her arthritis condition. And I think that offers a lot of help to many people. So thank you for sharing. And I appreciate that. And our second half of our discussion today is going to be presented, and I have some health tips at the end. I'm going to share some of my favorite shake recipes with you today with my Solle natural products that I love. But I asked one of the founders and the president of Solle Naturals, Mr. Greg Halliday, to join us. He joins us twice a month. He does an amazing job explaining the Solle point of view on the products. And so we are finishing up our third part of a product that I love. We've had a 3-part discussion on it. I don't have it in the bag today. I keep it in one of these little containers, but it's called AvantGreens. It's a wonderful product. And Greg is going to tell us a little bit more. Thanks, Greg. That's the packaging I wanted to show. Usually I get a new batch and I pour it into my canister, and just because, you know, I'm living in a hotel, so my space is limited. So I like to keep them all in canisters. But anyway, Greg has explained 2 parts of this product. The first week we talked about fixing our absorption of nutrition through AvantGreens, how using that product can change our whole body and the way our mind functions. The second discussion pretty much explained how AvantGreens can help specific systems like the lymphatic system, how important it is to help the lymph move throughout the body when we're talking about good health. And this week, we're going to talk about the last part of AvantGreens. And so, Greg, I will let you go ahead and do that introduction. And I thank you for being with us every week. It isn't easy to get a president of a company to be with you on a webinar. I think that Greg is extraordinary because he doesn't just join my webinars twice a month, twice a week when he does it. He does this for many leaders in the company. And so thank you, Greg, for taking your time to be with us every week.
Thanks, Deb. Well, this is my preferred time. It was great listening to Hugh. I've known Hugh for many years and want you to know, Hugh, you've always been and still are an inspiration, a great example. I know you've helped thousands and thousands of people. I don't know what the number is. And we all keep learning and helping others, right? That's why we do this. And we learn from each other. Debbie's in her hotel, but if you end up listening to this recording and you don't know her, it's because she's building her home. I guess you'd say your dream home, right, Deb? And I remember when I was 11, I have 8, well, there are 9 of us, our brothers and sisters, 2 brothers, 6 sisters. When I was 11, my dad decided to build, he was a school teacher. So he decided to build his own home on about an acre of land. And we all lived in a 20-foot travel trailer for about a year at the back of our property. I still remember from the pipe that was later to come into the main water supply for our house. We did this bucket brigade with empty ice cream buckets, you know, those gallon. I liked that system because we got to eat the ice cream to create the bucket. And then that's how we filled the water for the travel trailer every single night so that there could be showers and baths. But those, you know what, those were great memories because that house, and my mom still lives in the house. Dad passed a couple of years ago. Yeah. Mom's still there. It's a big house he built for all his kids. And we don't want her to move because of the memories.
I thought of that, Greg, as we were building the house, you know, because I did live in an RV for 8 months. I took a horrible fall at the construction. And so my husband wanted to protect me. And that's why we moved to the hotel. But I really have been thinking a lot about your dad as I've looked at the house and watched the progress. And I meant to tell you that last night, is that I don't know. I met your dad. I loved your dad. I love your mom. She coached me for singing for one performance. I love Greg's parents, but I really did think of that and thought how blessed we are that we get to do what we love and get to live our dreams. So thanks, Greg.
Yeah, the sacrifices are worth it, aren't they? So I brought the presentation I brought today is from Dr. Allison. And as Debbie said, it's kind of a soul perspective, and Dr. Allison really influences us heavily because she's such a good researcher and such an open mind. Over the years, I've had the blessing to work with a lot of scientists, and I will tell you some wonderful people. Not the most open minds always. They kind of, most of them were pharmacognosists. And But Dr. Allison did her postdoctorate at Yale and spent time in the hospital working with principally women and children. She's also a clinical psychologist. And so she, Hugh talked a little bit about there's a connection, and we know it, we're learning more all the time between emotional and physical, and we have to nourish both. We can feed and make a difference in both and just change significantly the way our health goes. And that's what this product, in fact, Dr. Allison, when she produced the slides, I'll just share my screen with you. These are her words, she said, look, this is a change everything, and I'm going to tell you how and why. So that's the way she looks at this product. Whether you're just kind of for the first time looking at this approach to healing, or whether you've been in it for a lot of years, there's some really useful information. It's a lot of slides, and I am going to kind of sail through it. I'm not Dr. Allison, but what I can do, because I've heard it several times from her, shared it many times, and been able to, I would say certain things have stood out to me and stayed that way. And hopefully I'll share those with you today. So as Debbie mentioned, she divided her teaching into 3 groups, and we're doing number 3 today. Just a reminder, you can see the first 2 again. How we can actually change our ability to receive nutrients. We can change that. That's Dr. Allison. We can also change our ability to fend off illness. So I was listening to when I first jumped in, and I'm trying to think if I don't see your name on my, hang on a second, because I'd like to use your name. Who was sharing at the start? It was, what's your first name? You were sharing a little bit about, sorry to put you on the spot.
It was Gwen Massey.
Gwen, is it Gwen?
Me.
Yeah.
Gwen, you were sharing and you talked about your daughter, an RA, right? A diagnosis with that. So the way the body deals with immune issues, even, that side of immune where it's autoimmune, Dr. Allison will talk about how well we clean out the trash patrol, is how she calls it. Those natural processes, how we can bolster those can make all the difference in the way our body modulates our immune system, whether it's overactive or underactive, same thing. And then this third section today is peak functioning, is really how well do we convert the nutrition into energy? How well do we transform them into these processes? So this is what we're going to talk about today. She goes into 2 focuses, which in her mind are the main purposes of AvantGreens, and in her mind are involved in most, if at a minimum many, but probably most health imbalances, and that is adrenal and thyroid functioning. Okay, so she focuses on that today. So nutrition is key to peak functioning, because it makes all the difference in the way our cells create energy and the way systems function. Dense nutrition is always a boost, always helpful. There are very few things where you can tell someone, I know this will always help you. This is one of them. Eating dense foods, lots of nutrients without having to eat lots of food, is always helpful. Here are 2 examples of 2 ingredients in AvantGreens. Watercress doesn't get talked about a lot, but this was maybe like, I think a couple of years before we launched the product at most. The Washington Post published this. They took all the most famous, like nutrient-packed veggies. Guess which came out the top of the list? Did a whole scientific evaluation. Watercress. Most people went, huh? Why? Well, look at it. More iron than spinach, more calcium than milk, more vitamin C than oranges. Yes, watercress. Many other very high level nutrients, reducing DNA damage in cells when you eat it daily. They had a structure set up, and in their structure of analysis, it's the only veggie that got a perfect score. Now that's their structure, but what we take away from that is it's wonderful. Watercress is wonderful. It's dense. Another one that's in AvantGreens, aronia berry, black chokecherry. It surprises people that some more famous fruits for ORAC, or their ability to absorb free radicals, which helps the body heal and do so many things better. lowers inflammation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Aronia berry was higher than all of them. And it's not as talked about. Here's some interesting studies that Dr. Allison shared. UTIs. Cranberries have gotten a lot of fame. Did you know aronia is even better? It's more effective in a study. Enhancing blood flow, reducing clotting, lowering blood pressure or keeping it in a normal range, lowering or managing blood sugar, protecting the nervous system, memory, and neurons. These are just a couple of points taken from studies. Aronia has been studied a lot. So those are your first two really dense nutrients. Here's the next group, all the sprouts. We talked about this in the last couple of times. Lots of sprouts in here, right? They're all really high in protein digestive enzymes. You need those to repair, among many other things. Pain, inflammation, pain of any kind. Dr. Allison reminded us before aspirin was invented and famous, doctors who knew would actually prescribe proteolytic or protein digestive enzymes on an empty stomach multiple times a day for pain and inflammation. You had to take it a little more frequently, but it was very effective. And the Germans have done more studies recently showing that it will repair muscle if you take it on an empty stomach, so it's not being utilized in the digestion of your meal. Along with that, cholesterol in the blood sugar, any number of issues get improved by these protein digestive enzymes, which are packed in the sprouts. So sprouts just are much more dense, right? Can be 10 to 100 times what's in the mature plant of not just these enzymes, but of many of the components. So sprouts are a big part of this product. A couple of the sprouts, quinoa and amaranth, are referred to as kind of pseudo grains because they're not really grains, they're seeds, but they're used like grains. They're cooked with or foods are prepared with them. No gluten. They have complete proteins, as we say, all the essentials that the body can't manufacture. We have to eat them. And in addition, they are high in omega-3s. So sprouts are a win. Now, here's another thing that goes right along with the sprouts because it's also high in omegas. Not all people know that. Hemp seed. This is the hemp seed ground into flour. You've got a number of amino acids, a couple of them which help the body with the trash patrol, the so-called trash patrol. They've got the perfect ratio of omega-3 to omega-6. And honestly, hemp is highly nutritious in a number of ways. So it was a key addition. And then finally, we looked at this as a sweetener and soon found it's much more than that. Lohan or monk fruit is gaining popularity. As a sweetener, what it does is its sweetness hits your palate on a delayed basis, whereas stevia tends to hit it right when you eat it. Monk fruit tends to hit it later. So it just depends on the product whether they might use stevia or lohan. They're both highly nutritious plants. This is a fruit, of course, monk fruit. They call it the longevity fruit. Generally in China, some of their names, I tend to pay extra attention because they have, for millennia, seen results and written on these. It all as well has fatty acids in it. It's not just vitamin C like many fruits and minerals, but also fatty acids. And there are some definite lungs benefits and digestive benefits to lohan. Okay, I mentioned that Dr. Allison focused on adrenals and thyroid. And what she taught is that, first of all, if these two are out of balance, it's going to be really hard to have overall wellness. They're a key to peak functioning. And the imbalances with these two glands go largely undiagnosed and unrecognized. And if people knew and could learn a little bit more about it, we could help so much. It's not all in your head. It's not an attitude problem, says Dr. Allison. So I mentioned to her, it's the number one focus. Why? Because when it's untreated, adrenal fatigue and a sluggish thyroid cause aging prematurely and many emotional struggles and imbalances. She says misery. our ability to transform nutrients, to produce energy, to cleanse are critical. Well, they're critical to everything, but especially critical here, says Dr. Allison. So that's what she says. She says, put it this way, if we fix the 3 things that we're going to talk about with AvantGreens, we can change. I'll just insert the word improve everything, including tough, chronic adrenal and thyroid issues. So here's her little primer, okay? So if it's for the first time, it's a primer. For most of you who I see on here, you've done this for many years, so it's just a little bit of a review for all of us. You can see your adrenals on top of the kidneys. They secrete hormones that are incredibly important to manage body functioning. Here's an example of a few. So we don't always associate adrenals with our sodium-potassium balance, our electrolyte balance, blood pressure, but they do have a role together with the kidneys. When we have 2 signs that we have imbalances that can be adrenal related, our salt cravings and low blood pressure. So it's not always kidney. We go to kidney, but it can be adrenal fatigue that gives us. Here's another one, DHEA, a precursor to many hormones and energy. I remember years ago, Debbie, as we had a product for it. We used to, at the company prior to Solle, do a lot of isolated nutrients. What we like to use at Solle are complete plants because you get all the cofactors. And what we find is you do get a more balanced and successful program when you can provide more balance and not so much isolate all the nutrients. But DHEA is an important one. Next one that comes from adrenals, cortisol, glucocorticoids, which is 95% cortisol, controlled by the hypothalamus as well. Without it, we don't run well. So it is important, right? In addition, these hormones help us cope with stress. So adaptogens, which have as one of their 5 key characteristics, the ability to help us manage more productively stressors, would not do that if they didn't nourish adrenals, if they didn't have effect and focus on adrenal health. And that's one of the reasons they're in all of the Solle formulas. So this is Dr. Allison saying there's a reason this is central to our nutritional programs. So here's what she says, okay, adrenaline, we're pretty familiar with that. That's when things are, it's that fight or flight, right, hormone, and then cortisol. We need them both. We need both these things to deal with stress. They're both critical to body functioning. For example, to keep focus and pay attention, you have to have adrenaline, okay? We always need these on board. We need them available. But where's the problem? Well, first, okay, so let's just talk about why they're good. She says in peacetime, in normal times. Well, we already read about adrenaline, focus, and all those things mentally. Cortisol has a role in blood pressure, in heart function, in inflammation in our immune response. So I'm thinking there of Gwen's daughter, maintaining pancreas, the balanced pancreas, the way we digest food, the very digestive, how efficient are we at extracting nutrients from the food and bringing them to the cells? Cortisol has a role in all this, right? But what about in tough times, shock times, stressful times, which are part of life, right? In acute situations, that's when the adrenals kick into gear and pump out more adrenaline. These are, again, the quick review. These are the results. Blood starts to travel faster, the heart beats faster, more oxygen is delivered to cells, more glucose is released for energy production. Our senses are more acute. We breathe faster, we sweat, all these things, okay? So this is the example of in a tense or a high energy situation. But here's the issue. We have so much of it on hand. And so if we have too many, or we feel too frequently like we're in this war, say a stress war, then what happens is Dr. Allison says it's like becoming overdrawn from a bank. We don't manage as well. Things get bumpy. And she'll show us what happens, what doesn't manage as well, okay? Now here's the same thing with cortisol. Again, it's good in peacetime, but what happens with cortisol, it's a little different than adrenaline. Is speedy, speedy change. Cortisol, she says, think of it like a powerful War Department that is bulky and slowly builds momentum and gets stronger and stronger. And the momentum's harder to slow down. So it's released right away, but it takes longer to build. And once it's got momentum, it takes a lot longer to dissipate and slow down. Okay, so this is cortisol. So what happens is, well, it does help us with blood pressure and certain key things, but it down regulates or diminishes, slows down digestion, immunity, any immune imbalance. I don't think I've ever heard of one. I'm not sure I believe anymore after all these years that cortisol in some way isn't involved in this. In other words, that if we have an imbalance, a problem involving immunity, that everything's just fine, cortisol wise. I'm not sure I believe that anymore. So growth slows down. Well, we're always growing. The tissue is always regenerating, repairing. Growth is always needed. So these are the things that slow down if there's a lot of cortisol around. Interesting thoughts, huh? So chronic cortisol, what she says, here's how you can tell. Frequently sick, takes you longer to heal from wounds. Irregular period, infertility, pronounced PMS, pancreas problems, blood glucose, blood sugar levels are kind of like number one in our country. They're in terms of problem. We can't break down proteins, fats, deep belly fat goes to storage, the way our body uses fat. All of this is evidence of chronic cortisol. So here's this slide. I'll just say, Dr. Allison says it's a vicious cycle, because then more adrenaline comes out, cortisol is released, and we keep being more and more and more overdrawn in these two areas. Okay, these two hormones. So she says we weren't built to use. Her analogy is there's $100 a day that we're supposed to use for adrenaline. We weren't built to use 1,000. We weren't built to be chronically stressed in the way we are. Okay, it's the brain's perceived stress that matters. So sometimes we can feel like, well, I'm not terribly stressed when I really sit down and analyze things. But the perception is what triggers the chemicals, right? Remember, the hypothalamus and everything is involved. So adrenal fatigue is a real thing. It is not an attitude problem, okay? It is a result of a lifestyle, which I think we're all subject to now, a change in nutrition so that certain key organs become depleted and functions, hormones, etc., are not able to perform in the way that they're supposed to. It can come to a point where a person feels like, I can't even deal with sometimes a relatively small thing. I'm done. I just can't. That's kind of her teaching to us. So when this happens and we get adrenal fatigue, a variety of sensitivities, food sense and other sensitivities emerge. Overstimulation, allergies, and meltdowns increase. These are all signs, right? Remember as well, metabolism slows down. Detoxification slows down. So we get more acidic, inflammation, pain, liver's having to do more work. We literally do become overwhelmed physically as well as emotionally. So that's all tied right to adrenal fatigue. She talks about testing. I'm going to jump over this because she mentions it's underdiagnosed. It's a much bigger issue than is probably claimed. Now she jumps to the thyroid next. Okay, so we talked about the adrenals. They go hand in hand to her. They overlap a lot. They both need the same kind of support. So symptoms of thyroid imbalance: fatigue, lethargy, sleep difficulties, trouble regulating body temperature, especially in the mornings. The body temperature is too low. Exhaustion after exercise, unmotivated, brain fog, difficulty concentrating. They're not that different than the adrenal, are they? Here's some more symptoms. You can feel better suddenly for a brief period and then not. Lots of cravings, salty, fatty foods, a lot of mood swings, sick often, low blood pressure, lightheadedness, dizziness. These are all symptoms. A third page of symptoms: tendency to tremble when under pressure, pain in the upper back or neck, lots of digestive problems, sensitivities that we mentioned to strong odors, loud noise, light, fast pulse and heart disease, quick or rapid gain weight, or an inability to lose it, especially around the waist. Fourth page of symptoms: increased PMS. You can see this, the details: hair loss, thinner or brittle hair, loss of the outer 1/3 of the eyebrow, reduced sex drive. So AvantGreens is one thing you can do that's absolutely guaranteed to be helpful. You're going to have to find more of the answer. There are other things too involved in the equation, but one thing that is helpful is very dense nutrition. And we can show why. First of all, you have 3 adaptogens in the formula. We've already mentioned these: holy basil, licorice, and American ginseng. Why are they so directly beneficial to these problems? Well, here's what Dr. Allison lists. First of all, DHEA, which gets lower with adrenal fatigue, it goes up with licorice. Cortisol, which is chronically too high as part of stress, goes down. Also helps protect and bring inflammation down the brain. American ginseng, same thing. Brain protective, memory helping, moves the DHE up, moves the cortisol down. They do much more than this, these herbs, but these are things they are shown to do clinically. And big surprise here, right? Here's holy basil, the third one, gives more energy, improves sleep, is calming to the central nervous system, is holy basil, improves memory, and there's those magic 2 words, lowers cortisol. So that's another reason why adaptogens have so many different components in them, a variety of components, and they all do it a little differently. I don't think you can substitute one adaptogen for another, which is why we use a variety. We're all different. I wish we knew how to do it, how to do one thing and help everyone with it, but we don't. So we use variety of the same class of plants and hope that we can cover everyone's needs. Here are 2 other herbs that are part of it that do more than people think with this issue of thyroid and adrenals: hawthorn and rosemary. They are anxiety calmers. They're high in vitamin C, which is critical with thyroid. And actually, hawthorn, somewhat surprising to some people, it may produce natural adrenaline. That one always raises a couple of eyebrows. We've always known hawthorn is a wonderful heart supporting and heart tonic, and it is. Hawthorn, red raspberry, sarsaparilla, ginseng, alfalfa, holy basil, yellow dock, licorice, aronia. These are all things in AvantGreens. They all are high in selenium. So again, selenium, lots of important uses, among them key immune system needs that we have. And speaking of relaxing and anxiety and stress causing adrenal fatigue, higher cortisol levels and imbalances in these 2 important glands, one of the ingredients was put in there just for this reason. It's called Albizia julibrissin. Mimosa tree is a more common name. It's known in its regions as the happiness tree because it's a nervine and it helps us with a healthy stress response. It's quite pronounced in its calming and anti-anxiety benefits, and that's why we have it in AvantGreens. Those who are a little more studied in the naturopathic sciences and arts will tell you that Albizia is also emotionally particularly useful with unresolved grief or deeper sadness. Always sounds a little strange, people hearing that for the first time. How can it be that way? But remember that these thoughts and feelings, experiences, emotions produce chemicals and they are stored. And the body slows down and holds in stressful fight or flight situations. And when we relax and give dense nutrients and provide it with tools, it can release. That's a principle over the years we've learned. Albizia is really useful in that. And I love this quote right here from Dr. Christopher, one of the giants in natural health, right? He mentions that sarsaparilla, which is another ingredient in AvantGreens, it contains one of the particular hormones that the adrenals secrete called cortisol. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He says that if we don't have that hormone, the body will die. But if we do have it in small or insufficient amounts, the body goes on, but develops nervous depression, general weakness, and a variety of maladies. So he says really the same thing Dr. Allison is saying, that general weakness related to adrenal weakness and exhaustion covers a huge variety, if not most all, health imbalances or affects them, including, you can see his list here. And so we need to rebuild adrenals. If we're going to take a general rule and overgeneralize, it would be we all should strengthen and rebuild adrenals in our thyroid because of the world we live in, the way the nutrition is available to us, processed foods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a general rule. We're going to see things improve when we take this approach. And that's Dr. Christopher's advice. Also of help is ginkgo biloba. We all know they're wonderful for the brain, right? But not everybody knows ginkgo actually does reduce cortisol as well. And of course, the probiotics, we have some in AvantGreens. They're not needed to be refrigerated. They're heat resistant, and they also help the adrenals in doing this job. So that's a little look into thyroid, adrenals, and dense nutrition, why that's a place we can all start. We don't even have to understand, because I'll tell you, I don't understand it to the depth that probably many of you, and certainly Dr. Allison does, but I do understand the lesson there. I can get the part about dense nutrition. I can understand the basics of how we tend to be locked into an overactive state because of a lot of factors in the life we live. And that what we need to do is boost the nutrition to meet that demand and that need. And we can do it. It's actually not possible if we just try to do it all with table food. We can't eat enough and get nutrient-rich enough food, but we can do it with really dense sprouts, plants, therapeutic herbs. There we can accomplish the balancing nutritional levels needed. All right, Deb, back to you.
Wow, Greg, that was so much information. I mean, I can't even imagine dividing it into 3-part series, because it seems like every time we've talked about AvantGreens, there's so much to it. The list goes on and on. If you look at the little bag of ingredients, it's got a huge list of herbal components. I like to say that Solle's formulas are very complex in the sense that they cover so much ground in the body. But this particular formula has more ingredients than anything else that we have at Solle, and makes it so complete. And that's why I do believe that Dr. Allison is correct in saying that it's a fix everything or change everything in your body, because you're changing the way your lymphatic system functions, how you detox your body. It helps you with metabolism in the sense that your body needs to metabolize every little bit of nutrition that comes into it. And then on top of that, if you look at all of the systems that are aided in function, digestion, intestinal, the central nervous system, your hepatic system, because this product is highly hepatic protective. It helps the liver. And you'll see that because of how your body processes that grief and depression that can settle in. If your adrenal glands are overworked and your thyroid is overworked, it affects your liver, and your liver stores all of those emotions and has to be able to get rid of them. So it has to metabolize everything that comes into the body. If it's toxic or not, it has to process it.
Deb, sorry to interrupt you and jump in, but you just made me think, because Debbie was part of the study when we launched it. Dr. Allison did quite a large study. I can't remember how many participants. We had a big group.
We had 100.
Okay. And we were kind of surprised at how many said, I found myself crying a lot, because we're like, we want you to feel better. But and of course, that's part of the process.
Yeah.
Many people were able to process and release emotions, and then they felt better after. So I think that's kind of directly what you're saying.
Yeah, it really does. And I was one of the weepy willows in the bunch. Rachel Bragg and I think, cried the most out of everybody. But you have to understand that Rachel's situation is very similar to mine, where, you know, she had a lot of emotional issues that she was dealing with. I had a huge number of emotional issues that I'd been dragging along from my youth. And so just to give you an idea of how long your body will try to, what the liver does for protection of the body and the mind is amazing. We're still discovering all of the functions of the liver, but we know over 500 have been identified. And one of the things that the liver does, is charged with doing, is protecting the rest of the body, including the brain, protecting it from the toxicity of emotions. So that means that if you are around toxic people, people who steal your energy, people who zap you, literally, your body holds on to that because it's toxic and it can't use it and it wants to protect the brain. That's what the liver does. And so when you're using something like AvantGreens, your body is feeling healthy enough to process that and metabolize it, right? And get rid of it. And we know people who are workaholics. They're adrenally fatigued all the time, and their thyroid goes bonkers. And you see it. People who are stressed, people who are overworked, who are workaholics, their hair falls out, it looks dry, it's brittle, their fingernails break, their skin looks dry. They are not happy people. They work, but they're not happy. And so one of the things that I love at the mimosa in here changes that. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel better. But in order for you to get to the happy, you have to release what's been hurting for a while. And so you get rid of those emotional issues. So if you are new to AvantGreens, the bag says use 1 scoop, and you'll see it's a really small scoop. I always say when you're starting AvantGreens, use half a scoop. And so that way the emotions don't hit you that hard. But if they do, guess what? We have some amazing roll-on oils that you can use to process those emotions. And that's why we have them as part of our package. Greg, I love you. I could talk to you forever about these products. They're amazing. They change lives. I'm so grateful that you were able to finish this series with us. And I thank you for your time. And I thank you for doing this with all your heart. You do it twice a month, twice a week when you're on with us in English and in Spanish. For those of you who don't know, or if you have Spanish speaking friends who are interested in Solle, we do have a Tuesday class in Spanish. Wednesday is our English. Thanks again, Greg. I know you have to run. I'm going to finish off our discussion this week by sharing 2 of my favorite shakes, 2 ways that I use Solle products. So in the mornings, and now that I'm living in a hotel and I bought a cheap blender on Amazon, and my mom always said, when you buy cheap, it works out really expensively, right? Because that one didn't work. And so I had to try another one. And I can't wait to get to my house and get my BlendTech blender and make my shakes the way I like. But I'm going to tell you what I've been doing at the hotel. All I have is my shaker bottle, right? So I use it all the time. So I use 2 scoops of the Solle Complete Protein. You can see my fancy canisters at the hotel, whatever plastic jar I had. I take 2 scoops, and so that you can see the size difference in the scoops. This is the protein scoop. So I use 2 scoops of the protein, and I like the Dutch cocoa flavor because, yes, I am a chocolate addict. Okay, so you can see the difference in the scoops, okay? And then I use 1 scoop. I'm up to 1 scoop of the AvantGreens. So I use 2 scoops of the protein, 1 scoop of the AvantGreens. And if you want to know the secret to my pretty skin at 63, that's why I think Miss Gwen is lying to me. I think she's taking something like this because she looks amazing for her 70s. I use 1 packet of the Solle Royal, that collagen boosting formula. This is not collagen, you guys. For those of you who are new, this isn't collagen. This has a lot of ingredients that are important that help your body make the 28 types of collagen that your body needs. Your eyes are made out of collagen, your lungs are made out of collagen, your hair, your joints, but those collagens are all different, right? So there's 28 different kinds. This is going to make your body make the collagen that you need. So I put 1 of these in there, And then I put 1 Excel in my shake in the morning. And then I put a half a frozen banana, but I'm at a hotel that doesn't have a fridge, so I don't have any frozen bananas or frozen berries, but I love to put frozen mixed berries with my shake and the Excel. And it tastes really great. So that's my morning shake, or sometimes I have it for lunch. My next favorite thing to do, and now you're gonna know, I said I fell 2 months ago. I've been doubling up on a lot of things, and the Solle Royal is one of those things I've been doubling up on. Because I have tendencies for arthritis and I don't like pain. So like Miss Gwen, I needed something to help me manage the pain, but also build back my body and my mobility, because I pulled my whole groin and I had a hairline fracture in my pelvis. But I'm still here smiling and walking, and God is great always. And so what I did was I started adding this to my morning shake, but then in the evening before I go to bed, I take a packet of Renew. This is the one that helps the body rebuild at night and helps you calm down. And I mix it with another packet of Solle Royal. And I take it at about 8 p.m. because generally I like to go to bed at 9:30. Well, I must have been like super exhausted yesterday, and my body must have really needed it after doing a webinar until 9 p.m. I fell asleep. I don't remember hearing my husband get up for work. Now, normally I'm awake before he is, and I get to kiss him in the morning and say, bye, honey, I love you. Have a great day. I texted him this morning and said, did I kiss you this morning? I have no recollection. I slept like a log. And so it really helps you sleep well. And that's one of the benefits of when you have enough collagen in your body. It helps your body sleep better. So I like to mix these two at night, and I like to mix it with my morning shake, like I showed you. So, and you can add AvantGreens, or you can add Infatuate. Infatuate is another formula, and it does have a slight chocolatey flavor because it has cacao. It has got a lot of cacao in it, and you know how good cacao is for you. It's also a great, like AvantGreens, amazing source of omega-3, 6, and 9. Infatuate as well. Some of you already know that our collagen, not our collagen, I apologize, our omegas are on back order, because we had only one good source of a company that would provide for us, and they would extract the chia the way we want to extract it to make the capsule better, because all of our products are 100% plant-based. So they're vegan, non-GMO, no nuts, no allergies, no dairy, no soy in it. And so it's been on back order. But you know that I am a huge fan of our 4-month to health program. So what I have been telling people to substitute, since we don't have the actual capsules of the Solle Megas, is I tell people to use Infatuate in the program in the first month, because you're going to get a lot of omega-3, 6, and 9 in the Infatuate. And then by the time you get to the 4th month and you're doing your last month of good nutrition, now you have AvantGreens. So you can use Infatuate and AvantGreens to substitute the Solle Megas that are on back order, okay? So I just wanted to share those 2 recipes with you. I hope they were helpful. I love you guys. Thank you for being with us every week. Thank you, Dr. Jenkins, for that amazing testimonial. I loved it. It's so great to see all of you always. I adore you.